Welcome to another episode of Alumni's Den. We have a very special guest inside our studios today. Yes, extremely special guest. She is the COO of Aina Software. She is a project management practitioner, a professional, executive advisor, a business leader, and an educator. We have our dear, beloved teacher, Professor Angela Clermont, Nee Graham. That's how you
Yes,
pronounce it?
yes, yes.
I got it.
Excellent, excellent,
Welcome
excellent.
to Alumni's Den. How are you?
I'm great. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having me. And I also, before we start, I want to say I'm really impressed that you're doing this and the PM Club and all of the things that you're involved in. And I think it's so important for the network of
Great.
all of our folks to
Yeah.
stay connected. So
Thank
great
you.
work.
Thank you
Great
for
work.
that. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
I must say, at the top of this interview, I have my top 5 teachers at Algonquin College. We had Professor Martin here in one of our episodes, and I told him he's one. I'm not going to say my top 5, and I don't want persons to think that each time my guests come here and they're a professor at Algonquin College, I'm just going to include them in my top 5. That's not what I'm doing. So I can list them out now, but you're definitely one of my favorite lecturers at Algonquin College doing project management. You have been just impactful. The way the first time you came into class high energy, so vibrant. It was just it was the classroom was just illuminated by your presence. You walk in brisk, bold, confident, your aura, everything, and you're like, hey, welcome. And you had this just chirpy kind of great personality where a lot of us just gravitate to you naturally.
Mhm.
And we were just amazing to have you as the programs coordinator at that time. I was like, when we heard the news that you're no more, I was like, why? I think we had the best. I know the when you transitioned from being the programs coordinator, we know still it was still in good hands, but. You're just one of my favorite. The style of teaching as well, very interactive,
Mm.
not just sitting and pointing a boring lecture. You're so engaging, and it reminds us like when we're children and learning and playing with toys. It's just remarkable. Your style, your presence, your personality, and you have so much nuggets to share with your students.
Mm.
Takeaway of how to study, how to manage. You are an exceptional professor
Thank you.
and an amazing
Thank you.
human being. So I just want to say that off the top.
That's very kind. And I remember that first class. And I
Yes.
remember I walked in and I said, I'm looking for a volunteer.
Yes.
And who put their hand up? You did. You did. You were my very first volunteer, right?
Yeah.
And you took control. And I mean, it was fun. It was fun
Yeah,
right
that's
from the get-go.
amazing.
And I knew you were going to take care of everybody.
Wow.
Right from that first moment. And you have, and look,
Yeah.
and you have all of this.
Yeah.
You're continuing to take care of everyone. So
Thank you.
I am also reciprocally in admiration of you.
Thank you so very much.
Mhm.
So before we deep dive into project management, for persons who don't know Angela, outside of the professional space, I want to get a little bit into, not too deep into your personal life, but what it's like growing up. What was that like for you growing up as a little girl? Your ambitions? Did you imagine yourself being a professor, a practitioner of project management? Tell us a little bit about
Ah,
that.
that's so fun. Okay, so as a little girl, I had a really fun, carefree childhood. I spent a lot of time in forests, climbing trees, falling out of trees, being I was very boyish. Like we did lots of running and jumping, playing in the mud, catching tadpoles, anything outside, right? Like these were Like I was born like way back in the 1900s. This was
We
way
don't believe
back.
that. We don't believe that.
Long time ago, when, parents sent their kids outside first thing in the morning and you only come home when you're hungry.
Mhm.
If you wanted water, you drank from the garden hose. Like this was my childhood.
Yeah.
One of the things that, like if I take a look at my career and what my aspirations were, I always wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
I loved learning things. I wanted to be a teacher. I practiced writing on a chalkboard for my entire childhood. It was very fun.
Yeah.
And then what was the rest
So
of the
where-
question?
where-
I got
where-
caught up in
yeah,
my childhood.
Yeah, but where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cambridge,
schools you
Ontario.
attended? Right.
So if you're looking for like kind of my history, I grew up
Right.
in Cambridge, Ontario. Great childhood, lots of nature.
Right.
I started in terms of my educational journey. I started at the University of Waterloo. I was studying in a French teaching specialization program. As part of that, I was expected to study in my third year in a French-speaking university, and I got accepted to Paris University in
Amazing.
France.
Amazing.
But it was way back in the 1900s. There were no RESPs. I didn't have the money to go.
Wow.
So I had to withdraw from that program.
Mhm.
I came to Ottawa on co-op, loved it, never went home,
Mhm.
right? And because I didn't have a lot of money, I struggled.
You didn't
I
have
did
enough?
not have a lot of money. I moved to Ottawa with $200 in my bank account. I had no savings. I had no parental support for education. So I had to get a full-time job.
Wow.
So I wanted to study French. I wanted to teach. In Ottawa, everybody speaks French. So that's not a separate skill set. So I'm like, okay, I'll have to date a French guy. That's how I'll have to learn French. So that's what I did. And I went to Ottawa U and I studied commerce, right? So I got my business degree while working full-time. So I worked for a heating, ventilation, air conditioning company, a family company. I did their accounting. I ran business stuff. And I graduated. When I graduated, one of my IT profs was a partner at Price Waterhouse. So I ended up getting a consulting job after graduation. And then a few years after that, Price Waterhouse partnered with the University of Georgia to create an executive track MBA program. And I was nominated, I competed, and I became part of that pilot program. So I graduated from the University of Georgia with my MBA. And then shortly after that, I started my family. And I have, from a milestone perspective, I have two amazing kids that I talk about a lot in class.
Yes.
So they're in their early 20s. They're still a little bit on the family payroll. I'm, encouraging their independence. They're on their own, life journey. It's, but they're finding their way in this world, as we all do, right?
Yeah.
As we all do.
It's amazing how different it is now with children growing up now versus back then. How persons used to love going outside. I grew up in Jamaica where we're outdoor people, right? So we go to the river, we swim, we play in the sand, we play marbles. We're like that. So to hear like we had similar experience growing up now, children growing up, they're like just in front of the TV. You can see the difference, but it's amazing to hear your story and how you grew up. If you told me that you came with $200, I was like, not this professor. Look at you. But it's amazing to hear that
hard.
and how
hard.
persons can relate to that, right?
And it takes a great determination.
Right. So,
Right.
so tell us how did you get into project management? What sparked your interest?
How did I get there? If
Yeah.
I wanted to be a teacher, and then I was a teacher, and what the heck happened in
Yeah.
the process?
Yeah.
So it was a very meandering career, right? So, and I think that's something, and I've said this often, is you have to get really good at understanding when a door opens for you, right? So I always wanted to be a teacher, but it took me decades to get there. And that's okay, right? And that's okay. And in retrospect, I'm glad I wasn't a teacher out of the gate because I didn't have the stories and I didn't have the experiences to bring into a classroom until I did a whole bunch of other things first. But I was devastated at the time. I was like, oh, I can't do this, French teaching program. I really want to be a teacher. But in the end, you have to trust that your life's path will bring you where you need to go. And you just need to recognize those doors and walk through them when they open. So I got this opportunity because I had done so well in this course. This professor had recognized me. He recognized my resume when it crossed his desk, and I got hired. And so I became a consultant for years. I started out as a software developer, right? I was an okay software developer. I could make code work, but what I was really good at was analyzing the specs and the design, right? And so I kept going back to the client and going back to the business analyst and saying, you know what would work better if we did this.
Right.
And then I realized, well, I should be a business analyst, right? And I should do that. I'm better at that than I am at this. And then when I was a business analyst, I would watch the project managers and I would say, if they planned this differently and if they did this a little differently, it would go more smoothly. So then I worked my way into a project management role. So I did that through consulting. And then in about 2012, so I did that for decades, right? Project manager, team leads, things like that, all on IT projects.
Right.
Then I saw an opportunity for Algonquin College, and I came in there into the IT department to start up their project management office, right? So I started that. And then after several years in that role, I was able to make it finally over onto the academic side.
But before we jump into the academic portion of it, we'd love to get a little more information out of your experiences working on various projects. Tell us a little bit about some of the unique projects that you've worked on, the high, the lows, and how you pivot those challenges and the lessons learned from those.
Sure.
If you don't.
Yeah. No, this is all fun. So one of my, I've had a few favorite projects, but one of my real favorite projects was with Algonquin. So the context is I am now working in the IT department in projects at Algonquin. It was 2013. I'm testing my memory here. 2013 when we built the new Pembroke campus.
Okay.
The waterfront Pembroke campus, beautiful campus. And so leading up to that, they had decided, okay, we're going to launch this new campus for the September term. So they were in this old campus. And so what they had done is they had increased enrollment. So a whole bunch of new students we were going to pull in for September.
Right.
But then during the summer, there were construction delays. And it became evident that the campus would not open in September.
Mm-hmm.
But a whole bunch more students were coming.
Wow.
So this is when I stepped in. We're like, okay, plans don't, and we all know this, plans don't always go as intended. So what we ended up having to do, and I worked very closely with the dean at the time, and there was a core team of people, we had to figure out plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, because we had to find all these different spaces in the community, church basements, empty retail spaces. Where are we going to put these students come September until the campus is ready? And so we met often, we had lots of conversations, and we had to be really flexible in our planning.
Would you classify that as an agile approach or hybrid? And as you're speaking, I'm looking at in terms of the risk management plan. Was there any risk response that was there within the plan to say, okay, this could have happened, or that was like in the unknown when it comes on to risk management? I would love if don't be afraid to use the terminology because our audience will be mostly project management professionals and students. So feel free to.
Yeah, absolutely. So my take is it's not agile because it's very much a waterfall. This has to be done. This has to be done. This has to be done.
Okay.
But when things are going to be ready, when things need to be done, was very unknown.
Okay.
How long was this delay? Like as we were approaching, we were saying, okay, there's, obviously the risk starts getting bigger and it starts becoming a little bit more real. And you're like, until we declare. There's a point in time where you say, okay, we now know we cannot be in for September, right? And then at that point, it's like, well, now what? Right? And so it's all solvable, right? You're like, okay, we need space. We need space to put students. We need technology, right? That was the lens through which, like, I wasn't responsible for construction, but we were responsible for the technology. Okay, so what do we need?
Right.
What are today's needs? So they're revised needs, revised scope, and you figure out, okay, what do we need? And then it's just finding the places, meeting, talking a lot, making sure you've got the key people at the table, that you're disseminating that information out, and it's very responsive.
In that process, I'm very intrigued by this. But in that process, what was the strategy in terms of communicating that risk to key stakeholders? Were there any response? I think we had a change management expert, and she stated she doesn't like to use the word resistance, but what was the response like when that was communicated? Because there must have been, based on the sponsors, high expectations for this to happen. And what was the strategy behind communicating this, and how was it received?
Well, if at the time, so the role I was in a sub role. Right. So the dean and the president of the college would have been responsible for communicating with everybody else. So I was the recipient of the information.
Okay.
Right. So from the IT department, I was the recipient of we're not going to meet September. Now what? Right. So I had to respond. So I was one of the responders. And my job was really to gather the IT folks and say, what do we need? Because we had started moving some of the equipment.
Right.
And we had to move it back into the old facilities. Right. So it's like, okay, where are we at? So what is our current status? What do we need to do to pull it back, to create new spaces? And then what is our go plan? Because we, in the weekend, it was an October weekend, we had to move the entire campus from one campus after the last class on a Friday, have everything set up for the first class on the Monday.
Wow.
So those plans had to be really detailed. And so we didn't really, and it's really interesting from a change management perspective, there was nothing to resist. We couldn't make the construction go faster. We knew we had to move the campus. There was no real, we're not doing this or we're not accepting it. It was really how do we solve it?
Right.
How do we move forward? Right? And then it's small plans, and those plans change daily.
Yeah.
So from an agile perspective, we had to move quickly. We had to be responsive and flexible, but and we had to prioritize things and communicate daily. So in terms of stand-ups, there was a lot of that, but it was still a very predictive approach.
Okay. We have in studios an expert in project management. She was our project management fundamentals lecturer at Algonquin College. It's such I feel like it's a dream right now to be talking to you, but we appreciate you sharing that. Do you have any recollection of that project that was just amazing, that you enjoyed doing that project?
I
really
loved
much.
I loved doing that project. The lead up to it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of communication. One of the things that in this core group with the dean and everything, I know that there was a lot of humor. Like we coped using a lot of humor.
Okay.
Right. And I remember an awful lot of references to bottles of vodka, which we would hopefully celebrate with at one point. And so and I think it's important to keep things light, because it was very stressful. There was a lot of stuff going on. So lots of humor. But the really fun part of that project was with the IT team. And when we were all lined up, we had checklists, we had communication strategies, we had like walkie-talkies, and we had like all this stuff for the teardown, the Friday night teardown, the Saturday setup, the Sunday setup to the Monday. I have never had so many blisters on my feet.
Wow.
I had never walked so much and I'm an active person. We walked so much. I had my sleeves rolled up. I remember at one point I was on my back in the computer labs. I'm like, what needs done? Tell me how to hook these things up. And I hope the union's not listening, because I was not at the time I was not in a role where I should have been doing that work. But for me, it's always been very important to work alongside people, right? To motivate by doing.
Right.
And so they were working long hours. I worked all the hours with them, right? And so it was fun, and it was recognizing the team and joking around and just making sure, keeping it light, keeping it interesting, keeping it fun.
What would you say is the vast difference between doing practicing project management then versus now? If you should compare
Mm.
when you just started doing it compared to now.
Compared to my role in the startup that I'm doing, or I don't.
Do you see any difference
It's
there?
interesting. It's interesting because this is why I stepped out. I stepped back into industry to make sure that I understood how projects were currently being run.
Right,
But I think the fundamentals are all still really the same.
right.
You need to be flexible. You need to listen to people. You need to motivate people. You need to work alongside people. People need to know you're in the trench with them,
Mhm.
right? And that's how you get stuff done. And those fundamentals are still there.
How important is project management to the working industry? Because
Mm.
it's not every organization practice project management, and sometimes they're doing it and don't even know that they're
Mm.
doing project management. But how important is project management, and how has it been impacting, um, the working world from your perspective?
It's interesting. So if you kind of step back and you think, well, what is project management, right? Project management is managing a project. What is a project? A project is doing something unique, getting it done and implementing it. So really, what project management is it's managing a set of objectives and a set of tasks to meet those objectives, right? Whether you call someone a project manager or not, those things need to be done, right? Regardless if it's a formalized role, you've got scope, you've got cost, you've got time. Those things are all interrelated. You've got something that you need to accomplish. You typically have a budget, or if you're in a startup, you don't really have a budget. We can talk about that later if you want. You can get really creative. And you've got schedules and expectations. And managing all of those things has to be done anyway. Now, the discipline of project management formalizes some of these techniques. And I think it's very important to understand the concepts behind the techniques and to have that toolkit of available techniques that you can pull out when you need and apply them. So I think that formal training in project management is great, but the training itself is not helpful if you can't get shit done.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's really what we need to do.
Yeah.
Pardon my language. You have to get stuff done.
It's okay. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it is.
It's not airing on the family channel.
No, not at all. It's okay.
So you need to get stuff done. And there are so many different ways to get things done.
Yeah.
Right? Organizations can formally recognize you in that role or not. But what I think and what I've said, and I say in my classes a lot, is whether you become a project manager or you're some other role in this world, all of these skills will help you. It will help you in your personal life because you do projects. They'll help you in any professional setting. It's understanding objectives, how to meet those objectives, how to deal with stakeholders, how to deal with difficult people, how to, engage with a team, how to motivate team players, like all of these concepts, manage the risk, communicate, all of that stuff.
It's amazing. And you came into class one day. We're going to shift to how you basically, came into academics or academia.
Mm-hmm.
You came into class one day and you had a big book that you came with, and you were sharing with us the importance of time management. Oh yes, it sticks. And you were saying to us, "Hey, this is how I manage my schedule," which schedule was crazy. When we heard the amount of tasks, objectives that you had to accomplish, and how you basically, plan and you segment, and you just explain to us, hey, I don't always get it everything done, but what's important that I'm able to track it, and and you're like, I'm old school, I have the pen and paper. But it's very interesting, how you basically put the importance of practicing these things, not just that you teach it, but you practice it. And that was just a really like a good takeaway from the class. So if you could share with us, how did you basically end up into teaching project management, and how was that for you?
How did I get into teaching
Yeah,
project management? Can I stay on your time management thing? This is
sure.
I think we were going to
Go
talk about
ahead.
it later,
Go.
but I want to expand
Sure,
on this.
sure.
So some of my thinking has evolved.
Mm.
So time management is critical, right? Because our purpose is to get things done.
Right.
But as I've gotten older,
Mm.
I realized that increasingly, and I've probably, you came, partway through this evolution with me. I said, you can't get everything done. Like there will always be more things to do than the time within which you have to get this stuff done.
Yeah.
So you can't. So prioritization is key. Prioritization. Aim to do all of the important things.
Yes, you
right?
said that.
And one of the other things is, and I said, you've got these multiple roles that you play in this life. You're an individual, you're a partner, you're a friend, you're a professional, you're, if you've got a sport hobby, you're I was a martial artist, or, whatever you may be a soccer player, or whatever you are on the side. And you've got objectives and things to do within those. And you need to prioritize within each of those and move each of those roles forward. So that's important. But what I'm learning increasingly is there's time management and there's energy management.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm realizing, like I used to, like earlier in my career, there was this Arnold Schwarzenegger motivational video that I watched, and he was like, he would get up at, ungodly hours of the morning. And I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant. You create all this extra time in your day. And he'd be like, sleep faster. I'm like, that's a great philosophy. And I did that for years. But one of the things that I've really learned actually is one of my greatest productivity hacks is sleep and rest. And why this was not evident to me earlier in my career is beyond me, but allowing yourself that space to recharge and regenerate is almost more productive than checking off a whole bunch of other things. So there's time management, and then there's energy management, and the being able to understand within yourself, when do I need to recharge? Am I an introvert? Like, have I now had too many things in my schedule that are depleting me? What do I need to put in my schedule? What do I need to prioritize so I can recharge and I can be productive? And that's not something that I gave myself enough time and priority for earlier in my career. So I'm still evolving, and my philosophies around that are still evolving.
It's amazing. We saw you showing up in class fully energized all the time, and you made mention of that we should take the time to rest, recharge, because we're gonna have a burnout eventually. So that's salient. Let's jump into
Okay, so how I got into academia.
Yes.
Well, I'd always wanted to be
Right.
in academia.
Right.
And so I was in the project world at Algonquin, and I was like, as soon as I got to Algonquin, I was like, oh, there's learners here. Oh, there's classrooms. And while it's not chalkboards, because that was in the olden days, I was like, so every day I walked, to my office, I was like, oh. So, I was just on the edge of teaching, and I was like, I really want to get over. And so I met a woman who was coordinating the project management program and was about to launch. And I thought, I asked her out for coffee. I talked to her, and she's like, I have no opportunities at this point, but it was lovely meeting you. I was, perfect. Great. At that time, this was 2014, if I recall correctly, I had done too many things and I had burnt myself out. I went on leave. Right? So that was a big life lesson for me.
What was that like?
Burning out?
Yeah.
It was, I couldn't do anything. The day I realized, I was actually in my office, and I couldn't read an email. Like I couldn't read. My brain I had everything shut down in my body. Everything had stopped working because I had slept FOSTA for too many years. I had done too many things and I just hadn't recharged. And I had to go home and I went on leave. And during that time, so the woman who was coordinating the program had already told me, there's no positions. But then once I went on leave, she's like, you know what? I have an opening. And I'm like, I can handle that. I can handle teaching. And at that time and that was the launch, it was fall of 2014. That was the launch of the project management graduate certificate program. Right. And so class sizes were really small back then. It was a different teaching world. And it was so fun. So I said, I'd love to teach. Right. So I did that part-time while I was off from the IT department. I never went back. I was like, this is brilliant. Teaching it was what I had hoped it would be. But I will tell you a fun story. The very first class that I taught, so I did the fundamentals. So I was teaching fundamentals from the launch of the program.
Right.
And I was teaching on Saturday mornings. So we did an 8 to 10 class and a 10 to 12 class on Saturday morning. I walk in, I had come the night before, right? The risk manager and me had come the night before. I had trial run all the technology. I had everything going, blah, 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 blah. I arrive on campus Saturday morning. There had been a storm during the night. There was no power anywhere.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, okay.
What do I do?
What do I do? And I was like, and then you talk about being flexible.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I think I'm just going to open with, contingency planning and plan B, plan C, but like 5 minutes before the class started, everything came back on. I'm like, okay, so I'd, had an alternate plan, but then I was able to run, but it was fun. And I realized that even teaching, you need to be flexible. You need to be able to, solve things, right? Anyway, so, and that was the beginning of teaching, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved the learners. I loved, all the different stories. Like every learner that comes into a classroom, right? Like at this level in their life, there's a big life event going on for them. Right. And there's something that they need. There's something that they want, this big new objective or a problem in their life they want to solve or something they want to, exploit, an opportunity they want to exploit. And I've been so privileged over the years to hear so many of the stories that brought people into the classroom. And I just love being part of that. Yeah. I love being part of that. And I think, I feel a great responsibility to impart skills and knowledge or excitement about life or excitement about this career opportunity or other career opportunities so that they can change their lives. And that's really, Algonquin talks about, we change lives. Yeah. And we do. So.
Tell us some of the experiences that you've had because you're teaching international students in project management fundamentals, right? And I'm sure there might have been challenges that you've experienced. Maybe the language barrier, maybe some persons who are I don't know, they find it difficult to understand, to speak. And tell us about some of those experiences that you've had and how do you maneuver those?
It's hard. It's hard it's interesting because, when I started teaching, we didn't have the influx of international students that we'd had over the last couple of years. And then again, this is changing, right? The new IRCC rules. So it was interesting. I remember the first term where kind of the recruitment opened, and I walked into the classroom and I was like, wow, this is a really different classroom than I was expecting. Okay. Right. Okay. And I didn't know what to expect. I had to do a lot of learning myself. Like I had to ask questions. I had to learn, where are people coming from?
Mm.
Where are their, like, what are their expectations? What were their experiences in different academic systems? Because that
Yeah.
influences what their expectations are in this academic system.
Yeah.
And they were very misaligned in many cases, right?
Mhm.
And so how do I bridge that gap? How do I meet the learners where they are and bring them forward? And and if you think about it, our class sizes started really increasing, which makes it even more difficult to be able to give that individual attention
Right.
and to learn. But I really, and this is something about me, is I really, when I do something, I try and do it all in,
Yeah.
right? And so I really tried to do the learning. I did extra curricular, I did a lot of the professional development to understand, like what is the landscape is changing in the classroom, and how do I make sure I bring as many people from where they are, because the span of where they're coming from, like mentally or expectation setting or skill development,
Hmm.
it got very wide.
Yeah.
This and but it's talking to people, it's understanding where they're from. It was a lot of challenges around helping
Mm.
teamwork, which I know we all know, the entire faculty
Hmm.
team knows that this is a major a major challenge in the program. But we held our ground, saying this is like the one skill set you have to be able to come out of the
Yeah.
program understanding how to deal with people, how to navigate misaligned expectations, how to delegate, how to share work, how to hold yourself or other people accountable, like all these different, team related skill sets. So those were challenges. Um, and I think that how I tried to deal with it was learning myself, right? Where people are at, where am I at? I had to check my understanding of situations and my understanding of what I thought people needed. And I just tried my best. I tried my best, and there were learnings. Every term looked different. Every term I learned something new, and I could implement that in the next term. And I did my best.
It's remarkable. I don't know how you guys do it. Like, it's remarkable because we had to, in applied project management,
Mm.
work on our projects, and the team collaboration. I mean, throughout with all the courses, there has to be team collaboration, and then you have Jamaicans, you have persons from Sri Lanka, you have persons from India, you have persons from Burundi, you have persons from Nigeria, and everyone must come together, work together to execute the project. I think that was like, it's genius because, say, in Jamaica, when I'm at university and we're working in groups, yes, we it's tough, but we have the same language.
Mm.
We're talking a patois. We speak English. We can understand the lingo, but on an international basis, when we have persons from different places, then we have to ensure that the communication is so clear and it's understood. When I first came here, I'm just sharing this. When I first came here and I realized how persons would speak and then clarify to ensure, I used to wonder why. I think one of the professors, he has more degrees than a thermometer. What's his name? Bradway?
Jared
Bradway?
Jared Brathwaite Sturgeon.
Yes. He-
Brilliant guy.
He's
Brilliant guy.
amazing. um, and when he was teaching, he would ask, "Do you understand? I'm saying this," and I was wondering, like, why? Why is he? I'm like, yeah, I get you. Like, why is then progressing to semester two, having the experiences, the stakeholder engagement, then I realized how important it is to ensure that the message that is sent is the message that is interpreted, right? And received. So I think it's brilliant, the program there. What I love is how strict the institution is. Algonquin College is very strict when it comes on to academic principles, academic standards, no late submission. If you're late, zero, no cheat. Like, I love that, and how Algonquin colleges stand by that. I think, along with the working in groups, I used to think working in groups back in Jamaica was tough. but, but looking back in retrospect, that was a piece of cake. So I think it's brilliant for us to have this coming here to Canada, to have this experience. So when we go into the working world here, we can know how to communicate and ensure, ask, am I making sense? Does this make sense? And you get the feedback to know, because I don't know, you guys are so polite. I'll be saying something and it doesn't make sense. And instead of saying, oh, it's like, "Hmm, if I ask for my feedback, then you will give it. But if I don't ask," so I think it's brilliant, and I think that should stay. Working groups, it helps the workload as well. It helps because when we do schoolwork at Algonquin College, after doing that, when we go to work, yeah, we're ready for work. So I think you guys are doing a great job. What would you say are some of the fun stuff that you get out of teaching? You must have had like a barrage of experiences
Mm.
that you can share, like some high moments for you while teaching.
So probably one of the highest, the most rewarding terms for me serves as the highest point and the lowest point
Mhm.
in my teaching, and it was winter 2020.
Mhm.
Right? So this was when COVID hit,
Mhm.
when the the states of emergency came in, everything closed down, um, and I remember it was such a formative experience for me as an educator and as an individual, as was for most of us, right? So the context so from a personal perspective, 5 days before the state of emergency came in, I got separated.
Mm.
I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know. And so, from a personal perspective, there was so much uncertainty.
Mm.
Then we hit Thursday of that. So, that was the Monday of that week. The Thursday of that week, we could tell that it was imminent that we wouldn't be able to meet in person. And I taught 2 classes that day, and my social feed was all filled with, oh my gosh, the world's running out of toilet paper and you're never going to be able to go to the bathroom again. And like there was all this massive
Mhm.
uncertainty, and my world had been turned upside down. And I remember, so I had 2 classes that day, and I spent most of that class going, okay, guys, something's happening. None of us know what it is. None of us know what's coming, but we're going to get through this together.
Mhm.
Right? And so we spent most of the class going, okay, what if plan B, plan C, right? How are we going to communicate? Do we have a plan? You guys are all in your little groups, get in your groups, make sure you can connect with everybody on every device you have. I don't know what's going to come. I made sure that we had, communication plans in place, that people knew how to get a hold of me. I promised as much personal support as I could give. Now, I'm not a trained counselor, but I think in those situations, I think people just need to know you're going to be in the trench with them,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I was nervous. I didn't know. So anyway, the next, the Friday news came out, everything's shut down. The president says, okay, guys, classes are suspended for a week. We're going to give the faculty a week to figure stuff out, figure out new technologies. Okay. All right. So game on. And then we pivoted to online. None of us had done it, learners, faculty alike. And it was a turning point for me insofar as I realized at that point that you had to connect with the people first. You had to connect with the learners first before you could try to teach anything. Nobody was going to learn if they didn't feel safe.
Mm.
And so I spent a great amount of time at the beginning of every class talking to people, telling people, and one of my strategies was, I'm going to share my own anxieties. of what's going on, right? Like my personal world was upside down. I had to manage children through this. I'd just the amount of unknown, your social feeds, your news feeds are going crazy. And it became very clear to me that I had to check in. I had to really do pulse checks. How are we? And I had to normalize talking about it in class, even though it wasn't project management. It is project management, right? Because
engagement.
It's team building. It's so critical. It's so critical to have people first. So that was really what I did. But then we spent a little bit of time just kind of getting our legs under us. And then I said, okay, now we have to talk shop. Projects have objectives that need to be met. Plans change. They always do. We have learning objectives that need to be met. Contractually, I'm on the hook to give you these learning opportunities. So here we go. This is how you would manage a project too. We have to figure out an alternate route to get here. And you can apply this on the job because this is going to happen to you on your projects and you're still going to have to deliver. Like no, sponsor is going to say, oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Not going to happen.
You don't have to. No. They're still waiting for this at the end. And so I felt that through that term, it was hard. It was really hard for me, for them, for my peer faculty members. And so there was just a lot of mentoring and support across the board. And one of the things that I really learned during that time was I had to manage myself first. It's, the oxygen mask. I had to make sure that my insides were calm despite all the chaos, despite all the unknowns, because everything was unknown, right? There was real fear around getting sick, so I had to manage myself so I could show up for everybody else.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
And it was a critical time for everyone to pivot, and you found a way by you taking that step to calm yourself and be in a position where you're vulnerable as well, sharing how you're feeling, that you're not alone in this. You're not the only one who feels this way. So that's remarkable, an amazing story, and I'm glad that we got through that time. It was a tough time for me as well. 2021, 2020 lost my dad. 2021 lost mom, and it was because of the COVID.
I am so sorry.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenging time for me. And I'm sure many persons across the world who have just been devastated by this. I'm glad that we're out of it now, and we have learned so many things out of that pandemic, online meetings. It wasn't as how it is today, and it was because of that. Persons are engaging online from across the world, so it has definitely helped us to pivot. So amazing story there. Let's talk Aina Software. That's your baby.
It is. It's currently what I'm focusing on. So in terms of, so what I'm doing is, you had mentioned that I stepped back from coordinating.
Right.
And the reason I did that is because I had felt, okay, I've been in the classroom for a really long time now. I want to make sure I reconnect with industry,
Right.
and make sure that I understand, I wanted to upskill myself. I wanted to make sure that I could still manage a project. I understood what it was going on currently in industry. So I stepped back, gave myself a little bit of space.
We were so disappointed. We were devastated by you stepping back from that. I think you were just perfect for the role. Why? You said it earlier, is that you connect with the students, and authentic connection can be felt. It cannot be faked. You can try it. It doesn't, but people know when you're authentic, when you're genuine about their education, about them learning and connecting with them. and that was felt
Mm.
with you being the project programs coordinator as well as being our teacher. So we were definitely touched, but we're glad. Now we're hearing why. So we didn't know before, but now we're hearing why, and it's a worthy cause because you were thinking about getting back into the industry and then doing your own thing. So I want to say congratulations on that. Tell us more.
So so I'm currently
Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt.
no,
with
it's all good. It's all good. So I'm currently on sabbatical.
All right.
When I decided to step back, I told a few people, and one of our former graduates,
Mhm.
one of our alum,
Right.
came to me. She said, "Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere, Angela. If you've got space, just hold still." I was like, "Oh, okay, okay." And so this is Isa Mazud. This is her vision. So Aina Software has been, in the works for a very long time. I'm in the role of COO to help her actualize that vision.
Wow.
So I feel very privileged to be part of this journey with her. So what Aina is,
Right.
so Aina is an AI-powered beauty recommendation platform. So think of, having your own personal beauty assistant professional on call at all times, one that you can speak to like it's your best friend, that supports you in your beauty journey, right? And you'll be able to talk with Aina. She'll get to know you in a hyper-personalized way, everything about your biology, about your geolocation, about your philosophy on beauty, right? Because your philosophy on beauty is different than my philosophy
Right.
on beauty.
That's
Different.
important.
It is. It is. There are these, restrictive norms that are put on us, but really, beauty is so elemental and is part of how you build your confidence and how you show up to the world.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So Aina is helping you find that beauty within yourself. And so you can show up to the world. And so you load up all of your skincare products, cosmetics, and she'll create recommendations, dynamic routines for you, walk you through.
I watched a couple of videos and I saw where persons were like they were going to work and it's like I know is kind of guiding them, telling them, "Hey, put on this, don't forget that." So on the go, persons can utilize this. Tell us, is it just on like mobile devices or it's on the desktop as well as mobile devices? Tell us the functionality.
It's going to be a mobile app, and so
Okay.
what's really cool about the app also is that it's very it's so hyper personalized. It's voice driven. So from a technical innovation, one of the things we have is that it's in conversation,
Okay.
right? And so contextually, we're using AI in many different, component levels to be able to interpret what you're saying and figure out how you want to navigate the app, how it's collecting data in the app, how it's determining all the different things that you are going to be interested in and what's going to be, your personal journey and bring you along there.
What's the mission of Aina?
With the mission of Aina is to support the user in their personal beauty journey. Right? It's to help you feel the best that you can feel, help you look the best that you look. It's to help understand, what are all the different aspects of my life that impact my beauty? Sleep, exercise, hydration, weather, right? It's from the inside out. And so, the mission really is to rewrite the narrative and stop this, release us from this imposed restrictive beauty standards and what's important to you, what is it you want to achieve, and then how can this app help you achieve that so you can show up to the world.
And it's not only for females, it's for everyone.
Right?
Okay.
Not age specific, not gender specific.
Right.
Because beauty is so elemental, right? It's how we meet the most significant people in our lives. It's how we express how we feel about ourselves. It's how we are attracted to other people that we bring into our circle. So it's really to help you show up for yourself and to the world.
Yep. And how can persons get connected to this Aina software? Where do they go?
Yeah.
Tell us the process. Is everything launched now? Is
No,
it
we're not. We're
accessible?
still in
Where are you?
development.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tell-
we're still in development. We're just about to get into testing and refining the app.
Okay.
And so, if you want to learn about Aina, then go to our website, which is www.aina.ai. Right?
Okay.
You can join a wait list. We'll keep you informed about what we're doing. You have connection to all of our social feeds so you can follow along. So we're just about to go into testing, and we're expecting a spring launch.
Mhm.
We were hoping to be out before, but if we take a look at some of our biggest challenges, one of the biggest challenges that we've had is access to capital, raising capital.
Yeah.
And that with speed of delivery, getting to market, right? And we talk about that iron triangle, scope, time, cost.
Right.
That without the cost, you can't get the extra people to get the extra talent to get the extra stuff done sooner, right? So we've had some challenges around that, but on a positive, we've developed the team. We have amazing skill sets. It's a small team, so it's taking us longer, right? As these variables work, longer to get to market than we would like, but we've done it bootstrapped, so only with our own internal money.
So if there are sponsors who are watching right now, Angela, and they're interested in this and sponsoring this, probably giving you a couple million dollars.
So we would love that.
Look into your reference camera and talk to them.
Yeah, it would be great. I'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to me directly. And so my email is angela.clermont, CLERMONT @aina.ai. And we can have a meeting. I'll connect you with our CEO, and you can hear directly from her what her vision is and show you our product. And I would be happy to explore any opportunities.
And they would ask, why would we want to invest in this? How important is this initiative? And what would be the major role that they're contributing to? Because I'm sure after this interview, persons will be reaching out, but I'm sure they will be wondering, okay, what's the bigger
picture?
Yeah.
So really the vision for Aina is really to be the platform, the space for beauty, right? So think TikTok meets Sephora over an Amazon marketplace. So what we're doing is we're supporting the user, the beauty enthusiast on their beauty journey. But in that ecosystem, there are many different players, right? There are brands, there are influencers, and they will all be part of this platform, right? So when anybody wants to go, all these content creators, this is the place we want them to go. Brands, this is where you'll want to. So one of the other technical innovations that we've done is we've created these nodes. So we have been able to explore all the different AI models, and we've created these nodes. And what we're going to do with these nodes is empower brands to create nodes, influencers to create nodes, and they will go into my Aina, right? So imagine this. So for a value to a brand, right? So I'm going through my nightly skincare routine. It's all voice activated, so I'm hands-free. I'm washing my face. I'm putting on my products. And in the middle of step 3, I'm like, I have a question related to this product. I can just start talking. And the brand node that has been created by the brand can answer all my questions. So think of the power that gives to a brand to have a voice in my bathroom in context of that step. Oh, that's how I apply it. That's how that works. It makes a lot of sense. Oh, I shouldn't do it back to back with this other product. It's whatever that brand wants to explain to you. And then that brand will also learn how you're using their product, right? So this is a two-way capture of information. So if you think of the business opportunities for brands to be able to learn so deeply how consumers are using their products, this is their opportunity. And then for them to be able to explain
Mm.
in the context of how to use these products.
Yeah.
Imagine the loyalty. Imagine all of those, repeat purchase opportunities for that brand.
It's genius.
It is.
They,
It's
they
an amazing idea.
and they will be learning about their customers as well and what they need to do, which product they should be working on, prioritizing. So that's great. We're wrapping up now. We're really out of time. But for recent graduates, what would be your top piece of advice for those entering the working world, especially in project management? What would you say to them?
Focus on people. Focus on the people, right? Tasks don't get done by themselves. Our job is to get stuff done. People do the tasks. Get to know the people. Get to understand what motivates them. Understand what makes them click. Understand the lens through which they are looking and they're approaching this project, and work with them, right? Get in the trenches with them. And something that I've always said in class is make sure that you leave people better off than when you found them.
Wow.
Help them learn something, help them achieve something, help them feel part of something that's successful.
Wow.
And that's the key to getting another job, another project, having people want to work with you.
That's amazing. Thank you for joining us inside the den today, Angela. It was my absolute pleasure chatting with you. It's very refreshing. We're looking forward to Aina. We're looking forward to everything that you're working on, and we wish you all the very best.
Oh, thank you, Darren. This has been so exciting.
Thank you so very much for watching Alumni's Den. Remember, whatever you do, do it with clean hands and a pure heart. My name is Darren. It was a pleasure having you. Thanks for watching. Remember, subscribe, like, share. Tell us, leave a comment. We're looking forward to hearing from you.